I'm forever blowing bubbles, pretty bubbles in the air.
Hey, it's Beth here, episode 556. Okay, this one is Adventures in Baby Cuddling. Okay, I need this. Those mothers who don't have a child. We had a name for it? Childless women. And they were sad. And I was one of them, infertile, sad. Well, I'm a grandmotherless woman. And I can't take it anymore. So I found a way out for myself. My son is happy. He's 40. Matt loves his life. He's got friends. He's uncles to his friends' children. Everything's going his way. He's not married. He is so busy. He goes out every night. He's got to slow down. He's like George Clooney. I think it's going to be 48 till he settles down. That's fine. I had to find a way to make that fine, and I did. I'm a baby, infant, NICU, newborn cuddler. Newborns are my addiction. I adore them. I adore new puppies too. Brand new. I mean like stay in your arms new. And I found a way to get on an assembly line of newborns. Non-stop newborns. This is what baby cuddling is. It's NICU. They're all like a week old, less. Perfect for me. I found a place to go to save myself from my problem. I'm like out of my mind. And it's working. For once in my life, something is actually working. And I'm actually good at something that I want to do. This is so much better than screenwriting. So much better than ballet and speaking French and every other thing I've tried. I'm on solid ground. So, I want to tell you about my first baby. And I'm going to give them stage names because I can't use their real names. I would call my first baby Arthur. And I found Arthur when, all by myself, I was just walking and I found him. And there he was. And he was 2 days old. And his parents both work. And they have 3 other children. So there was Arthur, all by himself. That's what I want. I'm better than nothing, Arthur. Much better than nothing. Held him for 2.5 hours. Came back, got Arthur again, and again, and again. He taught me how to do this. He was my teacher. 5 days. And then he went home. Happy. That's where you belong, Arthur. Go home. I met your parents. They were lovely. Great. So he was my start. Unbelievably wonderful. Then I met this little guy, and his name was Bill. And he was from Senegal. And he was the most beautiful baby you could ever imagine. He looked like an angel. And he was sweet, and he was lovely. And I held him for 2.5 hours every single time I held him. And that went on for a couple of days. So I got my feet wet with a couple of guys, which, they were bouncy and lovable and made it all easy for me. Because my next victim was this little girl. She looked like a fairy in the forest. I thought she was an albino, but she wasn't. I'll call her Summer. And she was my first baby that actually needed to be held. When I picked her up, and we went 2.5 hours too. When I picked her up, she was uncomfortable. It took us a while. And then she started getting her color. It was like watching a butterfly. And she actually was pink. And she warmed up. She couldn't regulate her heat and cooling. She couldn't regulate her temperature. She warmed up, and I came back to visit her 3 times. And then she went home, which is great. But she was the one. And I always held them, the way I got them from the nurse, because I was scared. Ariel, she would lift up her arms and she would grab. And so I grabbed her hand and she went towards my body. And she wanted to climb up to my neck. She wanted to go for the jugular in a good way, not in a bad way. She wanted to hear the heartbeat. She wanted to feel the heartbeat. So she was my first baby that I kangarooed, which is an expression for babies want to be skin on skin. And mostly that's the mom's job. But in Summer's case, we had to get the work done. So that's what I did. That's all she wanted. She just wanted to hear the heartbeat. She wanted to feel the pulse. That was her thing. Every baby is different. Every baby has different ideas of what should happen, different ways they want to be cuddled and rocked and moved. And for little Winter, for little Summer, that was what she wanted. She just wanted to just be with somebody, to just be safe, to just know that somebody, if a bear came in the room, somebody would run with her, take her to safety. She was smart. She heard everything. That was the other thing. They don't always close the door. In fact, just yesterday was the first time the door was absolutely closed 100%. So all those noises and distractions out in the hallway were gone. For little Summer, she heard everything. She understood. She was so smart. She understood the noises that the machines made. When her feeding tube was finished and it made an alarm, she stirred. She startled. She startled when a helicopter landed outside. This kid was too smart. And all she wanted, I guess when she got up to the jugular vein, because I'm old, or, in this wacky position, I was probably exerting a lot. And so I think my vein was going blah, 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 blah. She loved it. That's where she wanted to be. Every baby will tell you where you want to be. Now this is good, because I'm on this assembly line. I'm learning about all different babies. For when you have your baby, when you're a grandmother and you have your baby, they'll tell you what to do. It's not in the book. Every single baby is absolutely 100% different. 100%. Now this was a revelation. So the next time I go, I can't find anybody who needs help. And weekends, parents are there. Nights, parents are there. So this was an afternoon, and it was a Friday. And Fridays, people go home. Babies go home. I go down the hall. I get to this thing that I really don't understand, which has 2 cribs in it. Okay? I hadn't learned about this yet. So I walk in, and there's this little guy named Bobby off to the right. He's in a mama foo, this contraption that is so jerky and so crazy. And it costs like $600. And all the parents are buying it. The grandparents are buying it for the parents. It's like a roller coaster ride. And I will say they're quiet, but they're not happy in it. It jerks. It's just, I think the kids are holding on for dear life. Quietly. But it's not comfortable. So there he was in the mama foo, both hands on the side, just waiting for the next jerk. It's just a crazy contraption. So I asked the nurse if I can hold him. She's like, well, he's quiet. I said, yeah, but look at his eyes. And his eyes were open and they were startled. It's like, I said, he's not happy. I hate the mama foo. She's like, that's interesting. So she handed him to me. Okay. He had some digestive issues. We had some moments where he needed to be comforted. And there was another baby in the crib on the other side of the room. And I watched the monitors, because that's how I can tell if I'm getting the job done. If their heartbeat and their breathing becomes steady, you're doing something right. If it's not steady, keep trying. So we'd be startled. This other baby was sound asleep, right? A little spike and this and that. The baby in the other bed, sound asleep, spiking the same way. I'm alone with these two babies for 45 minutes, watching this happen. Bobby's getting more and more comfortable, but every time he has a gas pain or whatever, he gets upset. We have to work on it. And that baby's experiencing the same thing. The nurse comes in. I'm like, what is going on with these two babies? I'm watching the monitors. She goes, oh, they're twins. I got goosebumps all over. That was wild. That was wild. They're connected. Just so amazing. So that's that beautiful Bobby story. Then I got this guy named Antonio, my stage name for him, Antonio Banderas. Absolutely beautiful. He was built like a linebacker with a beautiful face. His feet were adorable little squares. The toes were all the same length. It was like little rectangular blocks. This guy was really, really sweet. But I have to start talking about what the big thing is that I found with these babies. They all don't want to, they would not be offended if I told you this. They all have gas. All of them. I think it's because at 1 or 2 days old, you're using new equipment that hasn't been used before. There's got to be air in there. It's like we're treading a new territory. These pipes have to be blown out. I bet every baby, some babies are born lucky and their systems just work like clockwork. And I know these babies are in the hospital, but I think when you get your baby, you might find this. So what I do is that I've been told, could you please hold him for a half an hour? I laugh. I hold them as long as I can hold them. And usually it's 2 or 2.5 hours. And I rock them and we get peaceful. And about an hour into it or an hour and a half into it, they start releasing gas. It's the nicest way I can say it. And it's a ton. And as they release more and more, they get more comfortable. And then finally, and I mean it's a lot. It's like if the baby weighs 5 pounds, it's 5 pounds worth of gas. It's shocking. Absolutely shocking. And little Antonio had this problem. And actually it took me 2 days to get him steady. So, the thing is, just hold the baby, keep rocking the baby, do a little vibrating with your leg. Hold them tight around their bottom. Hold their feet, make them whatever it takes to get them secure. And I can watch on the monitor. It's all different things. Some babies like their head held. I've read all these stories about how to hold an infant. A lot of babies in the very beginning, they want you to hold their feet. Because when they're in utero, they can't move. And they like the skin on their feet. It makes them happy. They all want to be held, not tightly, but securely. And they'll all nuzzle in any way they want to nuzzle. And they want to feel some skin. They want to go back home, back in the womb. I get it. I would too. It's tough out here. Noises, lights, cold air. It's all too much. So, but then when they start releasing the gas, oh my gosh, and you can feel it. You can feel there's one big, like Mount Vesuvius that's going to happen. And they all do it. And after that, their blood pressure, their heartbeat, they sail off into Never Never Land. And they sleep like a baby for as long as they can. And the nurses come back in the room. They're like, oh my God. They don't want to touch them. It's like they were so uncomfortable. I don't know if you've ever had like surgery where they open you up and then they close you up and there's all this air and gas in there and it's so painful. It's happened to me twice. I know what the babies are going through. And when it's gone, and that's why they're miserable, like colicky miserable, but it takes time. It takes 2.5 hours and you're not watching TV and you're making them feel comfortable, and you're talking to them, and you're relaxing them to the point where they open up their tight ass orifices. They're just so upset. They have to calm down. They have to let their bodies work naturally. It's hard. But the funniest story happened yesterday. I'm absolutely sure this is true because every single time I hold a baby, it happens every single time. Yesterday, I held this little baby girl who was so beautiful and so little and so perfect. I'm going to call her Grace. Like she was Grace Kelly perfect. And so feminine. I don't care. I'm not allowed to say that. She was so feminine. Like she already had beautiful eyelashes and eyebrows. And her forehead was pretty and her nose. She had that bow lip. You know that lip that everybody wants, that they pay millions of dollars for? She had it. She was the perfect little girl. And so I talked really quietly with her. And she wanted me to hold her delicately. And she wanted me to sing to her really quietly like I was a girl too. Dee-dee-dee. You know, we had a time like that. She was as sweet as she could be. 2 hours into it, she lets out a fart so loud that the box with her monitor on it fell off of our Barca lounger. I thought there was an explosion. I have never in my life, and she was 5 pounds. Oh my God. Luckily, it fell on the ground and no monitors went off. Nothing bad happened, but she scared me to death. Oh my God. That took 2 hours. 2 hours. And I didn't think it was going to come. I thought, oh, see, here's one. Here's a baby. My theory's wrong. It's not always about, gas or anything. It was hilarious. It was so loud. And I hadn't had that. Every other baby, it was quiet. It was silent. You just had to have your hand there to know that it happened. I just didn't even know that this was possible. She was also the first baby I ever had that coughed. So I guess she's above average. Let's put it that way. But it was hilarious. Now I am positive my theory's right. And I think it's probably true for every baby out there that's born in the natural way, the usual way, and goes home directly with their mom and everything's just great. Those are still new pipes. They've still been unused. It probably just can't be perfect. You got to blow it out. Blow out the pipes, right? Everybody, everywhere. You could be that person. Like in, oh my gosh. In every little story, there's a grandmother holding the baby in a rocker. I think rockers would be good, but don't forget to vibrate and move around. Just watch them. They have great plans for you if you'll let them do it. Sideways, up and down, all kinds of things. They know what they want. They know what they need, actually. And if you have that, you're the one. Your daughter-in-law, she doesn't have the time. She's too nervous, too excited. You're pretty nervous and pretty excited too. You've got 2.5 hours. She could take a bath. She could take a nap. When you've got that time, just hold the baby. Hold the baby tight and give the baby the opportunity to let it rip, to get it going, to get the air out, to get everything, the pipes working just perfectly. Even if it isn't a problem, it's got to be a little tiny problem. Just give them a chance. Maybe if it's just the usual way, these babies don't have this problem. I think my older Brett did and Matt didn't. Matt was just like an amazing baby. I mean, in the physical sense. He slept well, he ate well. So, okay, maybe you're going to get one of those, but maybe you're not. And if you don't, do your daughter a favor, because I hear from the nurses days later. Thanks for coming. They call me Miss Beth. Thanks. Can you come back? He's so happy. You relaxed him. I let him let it rip. That's all I did. And believe me, it feels great afterwards. So maybe when you get your baby, that's what you can do. Or even your friend's baby. You go visit, like I've got my friend Trisha and her baby. Maybe you can help your friend Just know this. It's not going to be in books because it's not a pretty story, but I think it's a true story. I'm on the assembly line. All I'm doing is brand new newborns. Brand new. That's my thing. So I'm there. I can't tell you what to do with a baby who's a month old. I can just tell you maybe this is a problem from 0 to 1 week. That they would really appreciate you holding the baby. See if you can make this happen. I mean, adventures in baby cuddling. This is it. This is where I belong. Just imagine me on the assembly line getting newborn after newborn, loving every second. But that's my tip. You're not gonna read about it. But this gas thing is big. If babies could talk, they would tell you. I know it. So, just a little secret tip. And it's keeping me sane, and I will be back. Thanks.
They fly so high, nearly reach the sky.